Good morning and welcome to our newest edition of the Tourismus Namibia live broadcast. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung, but also of the Tourismus magazine. Welcome to the show. Today we again bring you some news snippets, and I feel we've got some very interesting little news items, and obviously later on we'll introduce a few destinations together with Chloe Durr. And finally, we have an interview right at the end of the show with Tracy Eagles. She's representing First National Bank, and they've done some pretty nice stuff for us this week. So before we proceed with the topics, let's first have a look at the marketplace. Right, topics. Most of you who listen regularly will remember that last week I sort of went on a bit of a rant about the fact that I just felt it was unfair how Namibia was always regarded as a high-risk area for COVID-19. And I stated a couple of statistics and so on just to make the point. So this week, very interesting, and I'm really delighted about this. On Thursday afternoon, very late, actually it was evening already, the Robert Koch Institute of Germany restated the status of Namibia, and where previously we were regarded as a high-risk area, they had suddenly decided, not suddenly decided, I suppose they had a re-look. I remember that EU has said on a number of occasions that these things are being looked at on a 14-daily basis. So I trust it was as part of that they came to the conclusion that Namibia is not a high-risk area anymore. Remember, high-risk area is based on the assumption that any number higher than 50 out of 100,000 inhabitants over the last 7 days is regarded as a high risk. Namibia came to something like 24, tendency going downwards, so it just made sense. And they actually said it was a decision reached between the Institute, Ministry of Health, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Interior Ministry of Germany. So I think this really is good news for all our tourism operators. Now, if from Namibian side we can get our act together, just smoothen up the whole process and make sure that people who do come as visitors obviously need to be tested. We make peace with that, but that we just get the whole process as fluent as possible so as to minimize the stress and the inconvenience to any visitor. So let's see what comes out of it. I mean, it was only announced, so I'm quite sure we'll get the good news from our government as well, because they clearly should be able to identify the huge opportunity that comes with such a restate. So that was the one thing that I've found interesting. Then the other thing this week that obviously made headlines was Gijs Joubert, the CEO of Gondwana Collection Namibia. He obviously went and addressed a letter to Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary of the United Nations. And he seriously had a look at this whole problem with Namibia following the guidelines by the World Health Organization. Now, the World Health Organization obviously states its rules, but it's a matter of one size fits all. And it comes back to the argument that I brought previously about looking at Namibia as being a high-risk area, and other areas in Africa possibly, while the high-risk area must somehow become a mute argument the moment that you also look at our size of our countries. So our population density is far below what it is in Europe. So even if you looked at the 50 per 100,000 patients now, you still need to consider over which area that is spread. So, and specifically for Namibia, that argument had to count. And so Gijshuber has a problem, number one, with the World Health Organization simply going ahead and continuously giving and changing guidelines at times without taking due care to have a look at Africa and what we do on this side. So he's critical of some of the steps taken by the Minister of Health, but he's also critical of the United Nations that does not consider situations individually, and in the process kills of tourism industry and whatever else Africans have. So it was a hard letter in some ways, but it was clearly an appeal to have a look and see what can be done to help Africa and specifically Namibia, obviously. So that was it. You obviously saw all these photos now. SOS, that's the big thing in Namibia currently, with all these guys parking their cars. And this specifically is the company of Gijshuber. He obviously was the first one to start off with that. But here you can see any person that's got a vehicle at the moment, any person that's involved in the tourism industry, they've decided to park all their vehicles and actually state their case, make people aware of just how many people are currently not able to pursue a living. And this is serious. I mean, we're looking here at tour guides, people that are in the offices in danger of losing their livelihoods, their jobs and whatever. So it starts, anybody can currently actually take part and just make the point of we need to revive tourism. So far, good news and bad news. We haven't got them all back yet, but hopefully over time, people will understand that something needs to be done. Yeah, and then finally, we've got a little clip for you. It was my colleague, Claudia Reiter. She went to the, what is called the Movani Mountain Camp. And have a look here. She introduces us to one of the oldest, but also one of the first guides in Namibia, first black guides. So just have a look-see.
I'm Rosalia Rice, well known as Rosie. I'm the camp guide of Movani Mountain Camp at the moment. Yeah, I've started completely at grassroots level with wilderness safaris, but I'm now at the camp's base at the camp now. I used to do also overland tours and freelance tours with the other companies too. And I'm doing mostly nature drive with the guest. And in our area, we have got actually elephants, which we are doing with our guest. And it's desert adapted elephants, which we have got in the area. And we have got two groups in our area, which is Damaraland Camp or Damaraland. And one is actually Rosie's group, named after me, because I'm one of the first black female guide in Namibia. And the other group, it's called Oscar's group. And we have got both, but at the moment, because of the food, which is not that much, they've moved out actually into different areas. And they form small groups also, small groups all over. So yeah, that's actually the elephants which we are doing.
Okay, one more question. Do you have any problems with poaching?
Poaching, really not that much with elephants because ivory is not that much expensive, but we have got now and then there is a rhino poaching because of the rhino horns. Yeah. About the conservancies and the local people in the area, well, previously there was a lot of conflict between the local people and the elephants because previously they didn't benefit that much from their wildlife, it's only commercial farmers which is much benefiting from their wildlife. And in that way, people, they just chase out the elephants if they came close to their water points for drinking water. And government has made a good joint venture thing with which we call conservancies, and under conservancies actually local people are also benefit from their wildlife, because government allow them to look after their own wildlife, benefit from them, and in that way they've start get used to the elephants also too, and then they form much like a close hand to hand, or close to stay bit close to each other. And in that way our elephants are also very relaxed with the local people, with the vehicles, and they drink much at the local villages, and the local people are also opening troughs for them to drink, and that makes them also better relaxed with the human being in the area, and the conflict between them, it's bit less now than previously, because previously they think like these things are just coming to mess up our water. They take out the pipelines, they push down the windmills and so on. So that has made the local people previously upset. But now with this joint venture project, actually they start get used to them, help each other. Elephants are used to human being, and human beings are also used to elephants, because both are benefit from each other, and that makes them relax also, and they are not anymore pushing down that much windmills and taking out pipelines and so on. So it's a good actually good idea. They form these conservancies. It helps them also, and they benefit also from the tourists which is sleeping at the lodges. 10% of their income, 10% of this payment of the tourists, it's going to them. So it helps them also financially, and also it has bring a bit of friendship between the wildlife and local people.
Right, as you can see, she's spoken about desert adapted elephants in Damro land, and how the local communities obviously work hand in hand with the elephants really to benefit from each other. Good news for them. I found it quite an interesting little video clip that I wanted to share with you. Right, so next up is destinations. Welcome back. I must admit I'm actually in a very good mood, seeing that they changed the status of Namibia. Somehow I hope it really creates opportunities for all of us. Talking of opportunities, in the studio with me is Claudia. Obviously she writes for Tourismus Namibia. Welcome back.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, Chloe will obviously give us a few destination ideas again. It was actually quite funny the other day. She still said, no, we've got so much to talk about still. And today she admitted she's running out of ideas, so I need to send her out again.
We haven't traveled as much as usual this year, you know.
Exactly.
So it's a real problem.
Yeah, but don't worry, we'll make a plan, that is for sure. So what do you want to introduce to us today?
Well, my route that I took, the back route, along the C23 and then the C415.
Okay, just to explain to the readers, so what you can do is if you would go south down from Windhoek, you would turn off at Riobot, or a bit later again, more or less on the height of Pitavasa and Oaganas.
Past Dodabus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can also take it, exactly. You can even take it from Dodabus going out of Windhoek. But what she's basically done, she took the back route. In other words, the parallel road, which is a sand road, parallel to the tar road going south.
Yeah, and it was a nice, I mean, it was a different road which took you past a whole lot of like old German farms, and I actually saw some bat-eared fox and everything along that road, because I don't think very many people travel it other than the farmers themselves. And so it kind of broke the journey scenically away from the B1. You know, I could have made it in half the time if I was on the tar road, but I mean, passing all these delicious like fig, I mean, wild
Did you
figs.
steal
and
some?
I didn't. They pricked me a hell of a shot, I'm telling you. But then, like, just the quirkiness of Namibia is what really, like, is so attractive to me. And this, I don't even actually know the name of this town, but just the way that they kind of like have the cheek to put the tractor like up in the air, and you know, it's just those little things. I think it was closed because of COVID. But kind of really quirky in how they've used all the old signage, signs, and that shell sign, I mean, must be ancient. It's
it must
really
be close
beautiful.
to the 50s, 60s. That's when it was in. Really
beautiful. And so this back route takes you past all of this, you know, through past Uhlenhorst and then Hooghanas and everything. And all the while I was looking for the German graves that you had told me about. And, you know, they aren't marked on maps. And so
you've got to search,
Actually, I saved the location of all the ones that I came across just so that we have them on file, because they are always far from where you would expect them to be. Because it seems as though
there's actually a map which one can use.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems as though they buried the soldiers where they had died.
Exactly.
Because they are very dispersed all the way along. But this road in particular takes you through a number of graves, you know, and even fields of Nama graves as well, which I initially thought were German graves, but, you know, all part of the history. And so...
Yeah, and don't make no mistake, many of them died in their clashes. So it wasn't only Germans who died, obviously Namas died as well.
Exactly. But a beautiful route where you have the Kalahari, I mean, white roads, but the Kalahari sand right next to it. I don't know if that's the way they create the roads. Would those originally be red dust roads?
Yeah. That's how they start off, and then later, obviously, they tar. But specifically, this route where you've made these photos here, wasn't it somehow funny how they go up and down and up and down?
Most beautiful.
It starts when you're sitting in the back, you start having car sickness.
That's the C17, and I've got to say that is actually mesmerizing, because you actually don't know what's coming after the hill that you pass. But it takes you past those amazing dwarfs playgrounds, and eventually to Giants Playground, and then you can take the tar route back. But I loved every moment of it. And actually the next destination we speak about, that same route along the C17 takes you to Khois, but June Songbreath is the next destination I'm going to discuss, and that's on an off-road, a farm off-road, and it's the Onze Rust farm. And you actually
this is
told
like
me
closer to Kitmans already. Well, as you approach,
it's about 30 kilometers from Khois. So
but I mean on the road to Kitmans.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, they have either these self-catering chalets. They've got 3 of them with 4 beds in each chalet, overlooking this incredible like savanna in the desert. You know, with red sand, and it's so stylish the way they've put it together. The units are quite close together, but I get the feeling that a family would go there and kind of take up all the units. But what really caught my eye was their bush camp, which is nestled inside the Kalahari dunes. And honestly, even just the way that they've hidden the camp with the almost mace balls on the roofs and things like that, from a distance you can't see it. Completely
and it's obviously cooler because of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you can just walk for days. I mean, I didn't have the chance to stay there, but it's on my bucket list for sure. And it's just, I can just imagine writing, reading, walking. It's just honestly paradise.
Just get your soul settled again.
Yeah. And this is the toilet. So everything is so quirky. You have like a loo with a view, which is amazing. But what I actually find so fascinating about Namibia, and I'm realizing it time and time again, it's the men. It's the men who come up with all these quirky ideas. This was a brainchild of the farmer, Peter, who you're able to go on.
This is truly a loo with a view.
It is. I mean, look at this view. Look at this view. But I mean, any quirky kind of off the beaten track experience I found, more often than not, it's not the farmer's wife who's come up with it, it's the farmer himself.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think it's hilarious.
He's probably been out there and thinking, okay, but
look
if
at
I
the
had
style.
to camp, this is the way I want
look
to
at
want
the
it,
style,
yeah.
and it's so well hidden with these beautiful, I don't know what type of wood
sticks or
that is,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah.
And then
Coppers, really.
he's even created a kind of viewpoint at the top where you can have sundowners that overlook kind of like this hidden haven, you know.
Yeah.
But I've got to say that the dining table can fit, I think, 12 people. So it's like you could really go there with your entire family and extended family and have a really special time.
Yeah, or a group of friends who really do
Exactly.
a tour and then stop there for 2 days or 3 days.
I mean, look at that. I mean, like you said just now, they had good rains, you know,
Yeah.
because it is the undiscovered kind of southeast. But this part in particular had good rains that year. So
Yeah,
this year.
and that's the thing. The problem is that not everybody had it. And it's the old story. When Namibia gets rain, it's a paradise in a question of 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And especially in the south, it's sometimes you can literally see the stuff grow.
Would that literally just be the red dunes if it hadn't have rained?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
typically, yeah. And some white, depends on where you obviously stop, but typically here where you see these dunes going up, that for sure is normally just red dune. And what's very nice, when the green comes up, you suddenly have this green set off against that extreme red.
I
And then you
can't
really
even
get
imagine that.
extreme colors. So it doesn't really matter what time of year you go. The Kalahari has some magic sites at all
really.
times of the year, yeah.
And then further on, I mean, from here, you could visit Giant's Playground, you could even be en route to Luderitz, but it's perfectly positioned to go to Kakharkhari, which I think is, like, if you are coming from South Africa, stopping there and then going to Kakharkhari is a wonderful idea. But continuing on then up the B1, you'll come to Altekokerhofen.
Yeah.
Am I saying it
right,
correctly?
Yeah.
And that's where the coal lithoporium is, which
So it's Alte Kalköfen, but yeah, you're quite close,
I'll
so don't worry.
practice.
Yeah, don't worry.
But they have the lithops there, and I've got to say, I didn't even know lithops existed before going to the coal lithoporium.
Yeah.
And Hilda and Frikkie Mouton are the owners of the farm, and kind of they have the largest registered collection of lithops in the whole of Namibia. I may even say South Africa, because they have both South African lithops and Namibian lithops. And they've got specially constructed hothouses, and going on a tour and really learning about each and every plant. Well, first of all, let me explain what a lithops is. It's basically a miniature desert-adapted succulent that, in order to survive the desert and the harsh, arid regions that they survive in, they're only exposed to fleshy leaves on the surface of the soil that are miniature, and then a taproot system is what feeds them water. And they can literally go for months on end without water, and some even live on fog alone, you know?
Exactly, yeah. They take whatever moisture they get.
And so they are absolutely fascinating, but they mimic their surroundings. So you'll see in a few of these photos that the coloring and the texture and the size of the succulents often is mirroring the kind of surrounding rocks.
He's obviously set them up that way, but I know for sure that you sometimes walk in these areas and you don't see them.
You don't. And actually, when they were first discovered in 1811 by William John Burchell, he found it by accident.
Yeah.
He actually picked up a curiously shaped pebble that proved to be a plant. And so altogether, you know, it's these kinds of things that make the desert so exciting to explore, because it's you wouldn't expect this kind of beauty in those arid regions.
And the flowering actually only takes literally days. If there's some rain,
And
it will come
only-
up
yeah.
and it's off again.
Only in autumn, and they're noon blooming, so they only come out when the sun is up.
Yeah.
But they also are so well disguised in order to protect themselves from grazing antelope, because to the antelope there could be rocks.
Yeah.
But I wonder I'm sure the flowers
I'm
give
sure
them
they
away.
smell it.
I'm sure the flowers give them away.
No, sure.
I mean,
sure.
look here, look how you can hardly even see the lithops there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a giveaway, obviously, but how often does that happen? Like you said, once a year.
And actually, Frikkie and Hilda have actually discovered some lithops that you know, on adventures through the desert. So they are kind of ever evolving, and new ones are popping up all the time, which is amazing. They've actually written there's been a whole thesis written on their discovery and everything. So I mean, you could really spend hours learning about each and every one of these plants.
Yeah, I remember going there once and spending there and thinking, you know, you actually want to stay around for much longer than you have time for.
I haven't shown pictures here, but it's an incredible place to stay. It really is. I mean, I think we'll save that for another destination.
Yeah,
but
sure.
It's, I mean, you know, coupled with history of the lime kilns, it really is.
Because that's what it originally was. It was because the railway line ran right in front of their main house. I don't know if you saw it.
It still does,
there.
and you hear it twice a day, which
now that
adds
it
to the
runs
magic.
again. Yeah, it wasn't running for years and years, so you always had a hard time imagining it. But there's one thing that I want to touch on. Remember the other day we spoke about the Nama and the fact that Namakwa land and Nama land in Namibia is actually one big area. The fact that somebody decided to use the Orange River as a border point shouldn't distract from the fact that, in fact, Namakwa land, the bigger portion is in Namibia and the smaller portion, yeah, exactly. And so it strikes me when we speak about lithops being in Namibia or being South African lithops. It's actually wrong, yeah. It is lithops that you find in Namakwa land.
Yeah.
And so just to sort of get that one right, you might find one sort more frequently further south and one further north. But at the end of the day, they're lithops, and I don't think they care much about borders.
I think we've proved that point over and over again, how pathetic borders actually are.
Yeah, they are, and they should be removed as far as I'm concerned. No, I wouldn't mind if Africa became something like EU, so really, so you go and you have a look at what you want to see.
Frank for president.
Okay, but now finally, there was something that I wanted to share with you guys. I've got a little video which basically comes from Erwin Leuschner down at the coast working for Allgemeine Zeitung, and he submitted it for another show, but I just felt, no, we need to share it on the tourism show as well. So yeah, have a look. Yeah, what an experience. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Me too.
I must admit I've never done it before. This video actually had the title Floating on a Desert Breeze. Yeah, and that is really what it is. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Yeah.
Jealous.
And so yeah, so next week we'll bring you some more destinations. Yeah, and that was my little talk with Chloe. Always enjoy it because she brings up various new ideas. Sometimes we, especially us Namibians, we are so used to accepting everything we see, whereas Chloe, everything is still new and interesting, and I actually like it because it just gets our minds reset, and so we can have a look whether there aren't other interesting stories to be had out there, especially with the eye of not only always viewing elephants and lions, but also to have a look at our people, how our people stay, our cultures, and there's so much more about Namibia than obviously animals. Right, and next we've got an interesting interview for you. Welcome back. As you can see, I'm being joined by Tracy Eagles, Chief Marketing Officer of First Rand Namibia. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Frank.
It's not every day that we've got this sort of interview. Normally we talk about sticks and stones, but welcome, Tracy. I'm so glad because we've got 250,000 Namibia dollars, which First Rand, or for that matter, FNB, First National Bank, is supporting us in the initiative for Namibia Tourism Expo 2020, where we're giving away free tickets. But before we go there, just quickly explain your role in the company and what you do more or less.
So the title Chief Marketing Officer generally means Chief Bottle Washer.
Okay, good
Kind of,
stuff.
so you get involved with everything, pretty much anything to do with communications in the business. So whether it's an SMS that comes through for any of the particular brands to you, or to the annual report, for example, and editing and proofing that, and investor relations. And I'm really, really lucky because I have a fantastic team. So marketing reports to me, research reports to me, customer strategy, particular love and passion point for the group. And aside from that, of course, events, marketing, sponsorships, foundation,
Okay.
So I get all the good
that's exactly
stuff.
the reason why you're here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but before we even go beyond that, COVID-19, it's obviously on everybody's mind. And how did you treat it in your office in this year?
So two ways, actually. One particularly was immediately what can we do for the market?
Okay.
And understanding that some things literally ground to an absolute halt. Others did their best to struggle along. But each of them, particularly the customers that had been in good standing with us, it's a long-term partnership if you're in good standing with the bank for a long time. And so our role very much was to say, in F&B particularly, is where are you? How can we be part of helping you to sustain yourself through this time? And so along with initiatives like the government's COVID relief package, we also did a number of reworking, restructuring of loans, consolidating of debt counseling, as well as payment holidays over that time. And then I think also one of the things that we were quite proud of is when the basic income grant came out, or for the pandemic, is that around about 1.5 million of the people that were on that list had said that of all the banks, in that 70% of it wanted to have it paid by e-wallet.
Wow.
So we were quite excited about that.
Sure.
So that's really kind of what F&B as a brand is about, is making things accessible and easy and convenient. And then digitally, of course, is the way that we are operating now.
Okay. Talking of digitally, that's where we're going with the Namibia Tourism Expo this year. And obviously with you on board now, this is very exciting stuff. I think you must have been blind if you haven't read in any of the NMH papers up to now that we're giving away free vouchers to the value of Namibia 1,000, which you can win in various ways, taking part in competitions in the papers, on our internet sites and so on. And it's all about being able to have a 1,000 Namibia dollar voucher as a discount voucher, really, because you need to use it as a voucher during the NTE. And the idea is obviously for people to support tourism and book their stay at the Namibia Tourism Expo, which is due to be held on the 4th of November leading up to the 7th, which will be the highlights, obviously. So what made F&B decide to actually support that initiative? Because 250,000, clearly you've got an idea of what you would like to achieve with this.
Yeah, so our support is to the Tourism Expo has been a lot wider than that. So we've been a partner for 3 years.
Exactly.
And obviously things have changed over these years. We've had really great themes around energy. We've had the environment. All of those things were very important. And then COVID came.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what? And so a reworking of the format of the Tourism Expo was quite important to us. And taking something digitally in a way that says we can try to be different. A little bit earlier, you and I were talking about what do we do to really inspire people to be different in this time? Because the environment, let's face it, is suffering. And they're suffering also psychologically. It's financially, yes, but they've tried so many things.
Yeah.
They've tried retrenching, they've tried skeleton staff, they've tried coming back out of retirements to keep things going.
Yeah.
And yet, it's just that impetus to get people to move and do something different. So offering these vouchers is actually a very exciting way, because wherever you can pick up a voucher, it means, you know what, depending on where you want to book, that could be the night. That could just be a wonderful time to just relax and take advantage of the great lodges that we have. And if you feel like splurging a little bit, then you take that 1,000 and you put it with something else and you book another couple of nights somewhere. But it's really about putting some kind of impetus into the market. So, let's just give someone a chance to go, if I had it, I would consider that. But right now, to get them out of that,
getting them out of that lethargy, and just make everybody realize that if we don't get up, nobody will.
Nobody will. It's just the pure weight of things.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a touch of sunshine and says, maybe let's think about it because I've got it now. It's very
just
exciting.
Remember, you don't need to be a customer of F&B just to qualify for that. This is really an initiative which F&B simply supports. It's for all of us.
Yes.
So it's for all of us to decide whether we want to go on leave and take a chance, go to the expo, maybe find a nice leave idea or destination that you've never been to that you would never afford normally, because obviously this is a combination effort. The tourism sites themselves obviously are offering special deals, so it might just be that you get out of there and suddenly find that you haven't even paid half of your normal stay.
Yeah. So yes, it is. I would encourage all of the F&B customers to try and make sure you get your hands on a voucher
Obviously,
somewhere.
yeah. Get some of your money back.
Come on, let's support this initiative. But then also, banks' roles in society is much wider than just their customer base.
Yeah.
It starts with their customer base, and we hope that we treat them well enough that others go, I want to be there.
Yeah. Okay.
But beyond that, we have a societal role as well that says we know that there's an issue in this industry, and we want to partner them to somehow make a difference, and just that drive, that little bit of an impetus, that hip to it.
So where else in the tourism sector are you then involved?
So we have, we hold about 40% of the market generally as F&B.
Okay.
So customer base is very strong. And so that as a proxy, we're very much involved in a number of tourism endeavors, whether it be from car rentals through to lodges. One of the things that's been of concern for those customers of ours that actually do car rentals is, of course, this issue now with the border.
And then to just added to the problem.
It's such a pity, because in Africa we like to drive. We
Yeah,
like to
and
have
then-
that sense of independence and be able to drive across. We have international tourists too go into South Africa, then drive through to us. Look at the flowers on the way. So
Exactly,
sorting out the land tourism aspect is vital at the moment. I don't know what the stats are in terms of lodges, but I think it would be a good exercise to run, is how many people arrive there in their cars as opposed to being fetched from the airport.
And that's exactly, as Tourism Namibia, or Tourismus Namibia for that matter, we will take a new approach as from November going forward, where we start introducing the concept of 10 degrees south, where the idea is not only to promote Namibia anymore, but actually look to Botswana, South Africa. We're already starting to do it in our magazine. So I totally agree with you that typically people would land in Windhoek and drive to Vic Falls or wherever else they go, or the other way around. They'll land there and come to Namibia and look at Etosha and so on.
But Namibia as a hub is the best place for everyone, actually, because it's generally a safe environment. We are, of course, experiencing some very real internal issues around gender-based violence at the moment, and I'm sure the international market is looking at us very strongly on that. Those things affect tourism, so it's important that we get these things right, because this is a perfect hub for a 10 degrees south environment. If people came in here, everybody could come in here and move from here out. I mean, what a win for us.
Yeah. And by the way, I totally hear you when you say that gender-based violence is an issue. It is a serious issue. But let's be fair with each other. I think it has been on the cards for a long time. It's just a case of suddenly people have had enough.
Yes.
So to suddenly say, oh, suddenly this is a different country, that's not quite true. I think you're just as safe in Namibia as you were like 3, 4, 5 months ago.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I think safety is something that we generally are able to offer all the time.
Yeah.
It's become a far more woke world.
Wow.
Where people are wanting to go to places that are sustainable, that are looking to organic opportunities, that are employing locally, that are building capacity and sustainability.
Exactly.
So, internal issues like this that can be solved need
That's
to be
my
off the
opinion
table.
about it, all of it. And I think we're a small enough country in terms of people that we can solve our problems. Talking of NTE, will F&B be there? Do you have a stand?
Of course.
Okay.
We're always there. Wherever our customers are, we are.
Okay.
So, of course, we'll be there. And we'll be particularly punting our alternative channels. So, stay out of the branches. No need for you to go to branch. Everything is on your app. Also, the other thing about the app, of course, is, again, that ease of it, is that we zero rate the airtime on it. So you do have to have your airtime on, but it doesn't use it.
Okay.
It's just, it has to be on, but if you actually could run a meter, you'd see that you don't actually
charge,
use,
yeah.
we don't charge for it. So we pay for that. So all your banking essentially is right in your hand without you having to pay petrol, go stand in a queue, lose hours from
Adding
work.
over and above the $1,000 Namibia voucher.
Yes.
If you really think about it.
It is, yes.
Yeah. Tell me finally, F&B going forward into 2021, what are your immediate plans? How do you see yourself being involved in reinvigorating the tourism trade? Not only the tourism trade, but Namibia as such.
Yeah. So it's a bigger narrative. As a group, F&B is obviously our anchor brand, and the role that it has to play is very much around supporting the customer base, opening opportunities for the customer base to look at things differently, especially in a constrained environment. Speaking about tourism, it's how do you encourage someone to think beyond the way they've always done things? And so what kind of platforms can we put in place for that? And we'll be looking at opportunities for engagements, for people to talk about new ideas. So innovation is a big thing of ours.
Yeah.
So we like to push that. But our bigger narrative is very much around making Namibia globally competitive. So we have big, audacious goals as a group.
But that's really much in line with 10 degrees south. We've decided to look beyond the borders of Namibia, and I think that's really what's got to happen. We're part of the bigger picture.
We
COVID
can't
has really
keep
taught us
playing just internally. We actually need the world, and the world absolutely would benefit from us.
Yeah, I think WellPrep not needs us, but could do well with us.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So any final thoughts before we part?
I've always loved the Tourism Expo. I've been part of it one or the other in my career since it started. Way back when Glenda and I would have new ideas about how could we do this. So it's a kind of thing that's close to my heart. But it's important to me that it stays relevant. So finding the things that make sense, that maybe will just help people to think differently, is very much part of F&B's how can we help you positioning. And we're happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much,
and see
Frank.
you in the near future at the NTE.
Definitely see you there.
Okay. Yeah, as you can see, that was the interview with Tracy Eagles. I'm so glad they were able to support us. NTE is just around the corner, just remember. It will be held from the 4th of November to the 7th. It will be at the SKW Sports Grounds, and we're actually very excited about it. Obviously, it has to be a bit smaller than in the past, simply because COVID has forced us on the one hand, and then obviously it's not the normal time when we would have done it, but we're actually quite happy with the number of people that are taking part. It will be a new approach. It will be what we in German call gemütlich. It's closer, people can talk to each other and communicate. And this is what it is really all about. It's about supplier as well as lodge owner or guest house or hotel owner, whatever it is, meeting with each other, being able to talk to each other and possibly even create trade. And you as visitor coming there and enjoying what we have. Now, there are a couple of people out there who might sometimes be a bit skeptical. You're entitled to do that. But I think if you haven't tried it, you wouldn't know. So go there, make sure you're part of it. The first entrance will always qualify for some of our vouchers. Remember, this is what it's all about, what we spoke about with Tracy just now. So it's all about you taking part, actually going there, looking what there is to offer. We as NMH do our best to have a bit of variety included in there. So we'll have live visits to shows which are done online. By the same token, in the evenings, we'll also have additional shows. And obviously, one of the highlights, if you haven't heard of it yet, you're surely not listening to radio and not reading the papers. But we obviously have quite a number of artists coming from South Africa and local guys taking part. So Saturday will be a big highlight with a show that's arranged in such a fashion as to keep everybody safe. We've sort of copied the ideas that we've seen in Europe and elsewhere, where you've got a little cubicle per 6 people. So go and have get your tickets now. It's early days, but it's now or never, because later on all the tickets are gone, and I'm quite sure people are hungry to actually do something else, be allowed to be at a live event again and take part. And so that Saturday will be pretty amazing, I'm quite sure. So yes, that was the interview. Thank you, FNB, once again for supporting this effort. It's not really in support to NMH, it's really a support to you, because it's for you to have those vouchers. Yeah, and that brings us to the end of today's show. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and then we'll see each other again next week, same time, same place.